To you live from the News Up here at Adisa Wikanda. I am Portia Gabo.
And I am Martin Asiedudate. Let's look at the headlines for the next 1 hour.
News360 Headlines is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint,
Pepsodent Charcoal and Pepsodent Herbal, EcoBank.
First evacuation flight from South Africa lands in Ghana after a wave of xenophobic attacks in that country.
And also coming up tonight, Attorney General backs Supreme Court case seeking to end party delegate system in suit filed by 3 eminent Ghanaians.
And later in the bulletin, health officials warn that flooding in Accra could trigger deadly waterborne diseases among poor sanitation and clogged drainage systems.
On the international front, World Health Organization is warning that DR Congo faces collision of disease and conflicts as Ebola spreads. We have details of all these stories and many more coming up in the next 1 hour. Do stay with us.
We are starting from the big stories that has got the continent talking, which is that the first batch of Ghanaians being evacuated from South Africa amid rising xenophobic tensions touched down earlier today in Accra, the Accra International Airport on Wednesday, the 27th of May, aboard an Ethiopian airline flight. This is the beginning of a government-led repatriation exercise aimed at ensuring that the safety of Ghanaians caught in the crossfire of renewed hostilities against foreign nationals in parts of South Africa. A total of 300 Ghanaians were on board the flight and were met on arrival by senior government officials, including the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, and the Chief of Staff, who led the official reception at the airport to welcome the evacuees back home. The evacuation exercise, coordinated through Ghana's diplomatic mission in South Africa in close collaboration with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, comes against the backdrop of growing fears among Ghanaians living and working in South Africa following renewed reports of attacks, intimidation and hostility directed at foreign nationals in the country.
And some of the evacuees have been speaking to TV3.
All right. My name is Victor Achitogo, and I've lived in South Africa for the past 16 years. And the reason why we came back to Ghana is due to the xenophobia attack, and it was very hectic for us, so we couldn't have a sustainable life there. So that is why His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama made a virtual plan for us to evacuate and come to Ghana. So I'm really happy to come back home, and I hope people can see me and they're gonna be also happy, and I'm happy that home sweet home. Thank you all.
You're happy that you're home. Did you see any of these attacks? Did you experience it yourself when you're in South Africa?
Yes, I've experienced it so many times. I've been I've been hijacked before, and I've been shot upon, and they took my car from me, and then I still got a bullet rightly in my spine, and which they failed to take it out. So those are some of my experiences which I encounter in South Africa.
What next for you now that you are home sweet home, like you said? What's the next plan for you personally?
Apparently, we're waiting for the government, and the government is going to give us a job and also make an incentives for us to enhance on our performances here.
Thank you.
16 years.
The Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa was there and had also the opportunity to talk to the returnees.
To Ghana, your own country, to the motherland. We thank God for safe journey. We thank the Almighty for protecting our lives. And we thank Him for giving us a leader in the person of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, who values the lives of Ghanaians. Today, the Mahama administration is demonstrating that wherever Ghanaians are, we will make sure you are protected, your dignity is respected, and we will go to the length of this world to bring you back home safely. On behalf of President John Dramani Mahama, we say Akwaba to all of you. Obake, Wenzolo. And we want to thank all our partners. The Chief of Staff has been very instrumental.
Right, and it was quite an exhilarating moment at the airport when these Ghanaians were disembarking the aircraft, the Ethiopian airline aircraft that brought them in. Let's engage Professor Lord Malko Yavuga, who is a professor for political economy and international relations and lectures at the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration. Prof, good evening and a happy holiday to you.
Good evening and happy holidays to you as well.
What would your initial thoughts be about these efforts government had put in to bring back the first batch of over 800 people who willingly want to flee the development and reports we are hearing from South Africa?
Well, my initial comments are that it's a bittersweet kind of experience. On the one hand, the government of Ghana has fulfilled a basic obligation of a state by looking out for its citizens that are caught up in a situation desired for. But on the other hand, it raises questions about the African unity, African integration agenda. And that is unfortunate that these images are going to stay with us for a long time when fellow Africans are being repatriated from another African country because of xenophobic attacks. So that's the bittersweet. It's good that Ghana has done what it has done to bring the citizens safely home, but it also goes a long way to undermine centuries and decades of efforts to unite this continent and bring all of us together.
We know that out of the almost 21,000 we are told Ghanaians in South Africa, 800 have willingly decided to come back home. What, in your estimation, could be the fate of those who are still there and want to remain there and work?
Well, it's a couple of things. One, is voluntary. People have to voluntarily wish to return home, and the Ghana government will come to their assistance. On the other hand, people have businesses. People have lived in that country for many years. They have a commitment, business and other commitments, so they cannot just leave them. So they have to be a point where government is also helping to facilitate the peaceful staying of Ghanaians who wish to stay in South Africa. How do we ensure that they are protected? Because it's not possible that every single Ghanaian will be coming back to Ghana, whatever the effort of the government. So therefore, whilst it's good that the government has tried to bring those who want to voluntarily come home, they must also do it to facilitate that those who wish to stay are protected because of their business and other interests that may be keeping them there.
The concern now is about the relationship between Ghana and South Africa. I know other African countries are also equally concerned about the recent development, but how can Ghana proceed so the relationship does not become frosty?
Well, Ghana has a lot of tools at its disposal to use. This is a diplomatic issue, so bilateral diplomatic negotiations have to happen behind the scenes. It could be a blessing in disguise that this has happened. Ghana has taken this action. Already, South Africans are not comfortable that Ghana has taken this decision. It's an embarrassment for them. So I think that will make the government of South Africa to sit up and engage Ghanaians and also engage their own citizens and talk to them to stop whatever they are doing to create this situation in the first place. But for us in Ghana, we have been at the forefront of the Pan-African movement, and we cannot, because of this incident, give up on that. So I would expect the foreign minister and the government of Ghana to open up bilateral windows for discussion with the South African government. If that doesn't work, then maybe they have to activate either ECOWAS level engagement with the South African government or the African Union level. Anyway, anyhow, there has to be an African solution. African diplomacy must come to the rescue. This is not beyond redemption. We can still repair our relationships as Africans, but much will depend on South African government, how they call their people into order to make sure that whatever is propelling them to engage in this barbaric action is stopped immediately.
And my last question, Prof, will be the role of the mother body, the African Union, in ensuring that South Africa is whipped in line. And we're already hearing reports of retaliatory attacks in some African countries. How can Ghana steer off that kind of path and ensure that, like you're indicating, use diplomacy to resolve, and get the AU to use diplomacy to resolve this issue?
No, first of all, I must say that Ghana, I don't think there will be any retaliatory attacks in Ghana. Ghanaians are generally peaceful people. We have a lot of South Africans and South African interests, business interests, economic interests here. So I think that Ghanaians will not go attacking them. But the bigger picture is what you are saying about the African Union. I think that African Union have to take this matter up as a serious matter at the continental level so that they can begin to have that discussion as Africans among the various countries that have been affected, so that together as countries of Africa, we can resolve our differences peacefully. And this is a test case for the African Union's ability to step in and resolve this issue without any further embarrassment to the continent.
Prof, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, too. Thank you.
In more news tonight, the Attorney General's Department has filed its argument in support of a case at the Supreme Court seeking to abolish the delegate system in political party primaries and allow all registered party members to vote, a Deputy Attorney General has said. The anti-delegate system suit was filed at the Supreme Court by former Minister Professor Kwabena Frimpong-Boateng, a former minister under the Rawlings administration, Christine Amwakonrama, and the founding member of the New Patriotic Party and statesman, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklu. The trio who filed the case are represented by lawyer and activist Oliver Bakavomawo. The plaintiffs are asking the Apex Court to declare that all registered members of political parties in good standing should be allowed to vote in internal party primaries rather than maintaining the current delegate system in which selected representatives vote. In a Facebook post, the Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Justice Remsai, described the case as one of the most significant constitutional matters in the country's Fourth Republic.
Let's go on to some other stories now. The Bank of Ghana has filed an appeal at the Supreme Court seeking to challenge the Court of Appeal's ruling on the restoration of the GN Savings and Loans license. The central bank is asking the Apex Court to set aside the judgment of the Court of Appeal, which quashed the High Court decision upholding the revocation of the license of the group Indum Savings and Loans Company Limited. Lawyers of the Bank of Ghana argue that the Court of Appeal erred in law when it went ahead to hear and determine the appeal filed by applicants to the Court of Appeal. That's Dr. Papakwesi Indum, Coconut Grove Beach Resort, and Group Indum Limited. They also indicate that they did not comply with an earlier mandatory provision under the court's rules 1997 CI 19 as amended, which stipulates that particulars of an alleged error of law should be clearly stated in the notice of appeal. The Bank of Ghana also raised serious concerns over the Court of Appeal's ruling that it should have considered the report of the advisor it appointed before proceeding to withdraw the license of GN Savings and Loans.
And away from the courts, Ghana's African Games dream is now facing a 580 million cedi accountability test. An Auditor General's report has raised serious questions about spending on food, hotels, transport, equipment, broadcasting and stadium works. Auditors cite inflated contracts, unsupported payments and weak controls. The question now is whether Ghana will only recover the money or also prosecute those found responsible. There's more in this report.
The 2023 hosting of the African Games by Ghana was meant to leave behind a lasting sporting legacy. The competition was plagued by challenges including delayed meals, shortage of proper sporting equipment, and late or ill-fitting kits, among others. But months later, the Auditor General's comprehensive audit says more than 580 million cedis in financial irregularities were recorded. Now, that is more than a quarter of the 2.245 billion cedis Ghana received and spent on the Games. The findings cut across catering, accommodation, transport, sport equipment, anti-doping, broadcasting, construction works, and post-Games asset management. Among the most serious findings is the allegation that anti-doping tests were overpriced by more than 8 million cedis. Accommodation costs were also allegedly inflated by about $840,000, equivalent to more than 10 million cedis. The audit also flags 336.6 million cedis spent under 14 major service contracts without adequate verification records, such as rooming lists, meal registers, passenger manifest, transport logs, or test records. The issue has also surfaced in Parliament. At a recent Public Accounts Committee sitting, members questioned a 35.8 million cedis claim linked to the deployment of 6,000 police officers during the Games, allegedly without supporting documents.
They spent 35.8 million 2024 for police officers, and we don't have documentation on it. How?
But the scandal now raises a bigger governance question. When public money is flagged in an audit, what should the state do? Should Ghana simply retrieve the money? Chairman of the Youth and Sports Committee of Parliament and MP for Ashaman, Dr. Enex Nogbe, he says that the committee will work in its powers towards the recovery of the funds.
Because definitely these monies must be recovered. Some of these things we need not to engage in these activities of plea bargaining. We must take the bull by the horn, and people should suffer for their actions.
Some people along the value chain are refusing to play their work, turning their eyes away, or else have just become culpable themselves. They are part of the network of those who are engaging in these corrupt practices. It will not be sufficient just to pick the high-level profile people and say these ones are the ones who should be held accountable. Everybody along that value chain who ignored the policies, the procurement laws, and what have you, should be held accountable. That's the only way we will prevent a repeat. Otherwise, this group goes, next group comes. The same middle-level officers will be facilitating this kind of corruption.
Well, retrieval is a step, but recovery alone does not answer the criminal question. Some say Ghana must first recover every pursuer. Others insist recovery without prosecution only makes corruption a refundable offense.
We should be looking at both. That's the best practice now. So you're not just doing a plea bargain kind of thing and then some people get away with it because they have influence. It is not that we just retrieve the money, you still be punished.
The former sports minister, Mustafa Yusuf, has meanwhile denied any wrongdoing, saying he does not accept responsibility for the irregularities identified in the audit. The Attorney General's next move will therefore be crucial. For now, the 580 million cedis African Games scandal, it has become more than a sports story. It is now another test of Ghana's accountability system. Noble Crosby and TV3 News, Accra.
Let's shift our attention to flood-related matters, and floodwaters are once again swallowing homes, roads and businesses across parts of Accra as Ghana enters another dangerous rainy season, reviving fears of a looming public health crisis. Health experts warn that the worsening floods could trigger outbreaks of cholera, typhoid, malaria and other waterborne diseases if urgent preventive measures are not enforced.
The Ghana Meteorological Agency has warned that rain-induced flooding could worsen between June and July as heavy rains continue to pound southern Ghana.
We built structures, we paved our homes, we built roads, buildings and the like. So this water cannot percolate into the soil. The drainage that we have to are narrowed. We are trying to expand the drainage from the Gary project, but we will not be able to exhaust all. So when it rains, you have a lot of flash floods. It is not because the rains in Accra are heavier than the rains in Takrady or Axim, but because those areas, when they build, at least they leave a place where it's bare. So when it rains, the water will percolate into it.
Public health officers fear the flooding conditions are creating a perfect breeding ground for disease outbreaks. Stagnant water, open drains, choked gutters, and contaminated food and water sources significantly increase the risk of cholera infections, particularly in densely populated communities with poor sanitary conditions. Health experts say children, the elderly, and persons living in overcrowded settlements remain the most vulnerable.
Public should be concerned about flooding because it leads to cholera and malaria outbreaks. Looking at what happens in 2024, cholera outbreak in Ghana recorded about 1,726 suspected cases in 36 districts, with 131 confirmed cases and 16 deaths in the Greater Accra alone, which shows that Greater Accra is an epicenter when it comes to cholera outbreak. Flood waters mostly mixed with sewage and poor sanitation, making cholera outbreak highly likely in Accra. The risk is imminent. Cholera can spread within days of flooding if contaminated water is consumed.
The warning comes as Ghana continues to recover from the country's most recent cholera outbreak, which began in late 2024 and spread rapidly across several regions. According to figures presented to Parliament by the Health Ministry, Ghana recorded more than 6,100 cholera cases and 49 deaths as of February 2025, after the outbreak spread across the Greater Accra, Central, Western, Eastern and Ashanti regions. Public health officials are now urging residents in flood-prone areas to boil drinking water, avoid consuming exposed food, maintain proper hand-washing hygiene, and immediately report symptoms such as severe diarrhea and vomiting to the nearest health facility. Environmental health officers are also warning against dumping of refuse into gutters and waterways, describing the practice as one of the major causes of flooding in Accra. Beyond cholera, stagnant floodwaters are also expected to increase cases of malaria as mosquitoes breed rapidly in waterlogged communities.
Mosquito population can increase up to 3 times within 2 weeks of stagnated waters. And given Accra's history, outbreaks are not hypothetical at all. They are imminent, and it is something that we need to prepare, which we are really putting our hands together to ensure that we put in measures to curtail it.
Typhoid fever, skin infections and respiratory diseases are also expected to rise if drainage systems remain clogged and sanitation conditions deteriorate further. For many residents, the fear is no longer only about losing property to floods, but also surviving the dangerous diseases that often follow. As the rains intensify, authorities face mounting pressure to improve drainage systems, enforce sanitation laws, and intensify public education before the flooding crisis escalates into another deadly health emergency. Stanley Niblew, TV3 News, Accra.
And the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, has warned of severe flooding as wetlands and water retention areas in several communities continue to be encroached upon and developed. The Director General of NADMO, Joseph Kuyon, is advising residents in flood-prone areas to relocate to safer grounds to avoid disaster during this rainy season.
Since 2025, the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, in collaboration with the Regional Coordinating Council and other security agencies, has intensified efforts to demolish structures built on wetlands and water retention areas. The exercise led to the demolition of several buildings, raising hopes of restoring the free flow of water in affected communities. However, a year later, the country continues to experience major flooding, particularly in the capital, Accra. On Tuesday, May 26, the Accra High Street, right in front of the Supreme Court of Ghana, was flooded.
This is the current set of roads here in front of the Supreme Court and also that of the Nkrumah Museum. You see the vehicles right behind, how they are struggling to access this road called the High Street, right in front of the Supreme Court and also that of the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Museum. The entire road has been taken over by the flood waters. All the gutters here are choked. The vehicles here are trying their possible best to just ply this road. And this road is not different from other roads we visited so far. We've been to the Jowolo traffic light, where also you see the highway, the N1 highway has equally been flooded.
Reacting to the situation after the launch of the NADMON's AI chatbot multi-hazard risk communication tool in Ghana, Director General Dr. Joseph Bikini-Kuyon cautioned the public against remaining in flood-prone areas during the rainy season.
Flooding is something we can avoid or reduce drastically if we ourselves will act responsibly. If you are occupying a Ramsar site, which used to receive water, it used to be a reception point that you yourself was or have been a witness to, like the Peshi case that we went. People used to fish in Peshi. Today, Peshi is vanishing. Where will that water stay when it comes? It's to stray into people's homes. So it is for us to behave responsibly.
Speaking about the AI chatbot multi-hazard risk communication tool, Joseph Kuyon said the platform will enable citizens across the country to report disasters and access emergency information promptly.
This is an automated system through which people can report disaster occurring in their communities and then get immediate response or help from the AI chatbot. The advantage is bringing on board is adding speed and creating accessibility to reporting disaster.
He added that NADMO is closely monitoring this year's rainfall pattern and is prepared to undertake rescue operations whenever the need arises.
Now, related development, hundreds of homes have been submerged in parts of Weija in Accra following the spillage of the Weija Dam. This has left thousands of residents stranded as the floods have forced them out of their homes. This report has more detail.
Just a few hours ago, this entire stretch was bare land. But hours after the spillage of the Weija Dam, the entire area has been submerged. All these homes you see behind me have been abandoned as residents found their way out, salvaging all they could. Some even had to resort to canoes in order to move away all they could lay their hands on. As I speak to you at the moment, the water is almost on my waistline. It shows you how high the water level is. And as we speak, the residents are not sure where many of them will be passing the night because they have been caught unawares with the flooding that has occurred today. We've been speaking to some of them.
Dam ne won e so medie o so no e bua paso akata e dan so nyina isi ane bi e kra duem ko fa boat le family boat no mi na mi
so nyama ne wo dem we pan out mi here na intisi awe ni chai
le kwasa ko mo ne
awe fa into dan no wo ye ndai
me jale wo le ko mu 5 days time so no het 20 na mama be yem yi.
All right, it is.
It's not a regular. on a regular basis. Previously, he used to, but until an individual volunteered and solved the larger problem at the edge of the water body, it slowed down. It slowed down drastically. Since that happened close to 10 years now, this is the second time. The first time was October 2022. This is the second time that we're having this close.
And how severe or how bad is this really?
I think coming events can be challenged before them. You can see from these two lenses connecting. If the three connecting means the movement in this connection is obstructed. And so that's why I can see a lot of people moving out. Because once the three lines are connected, it becomes difficult.
So roughly how many homes have this affected from where you are standing behind you?
You are looking at about almost 300, 500 houses average. Unless it should be more. 300, 500 average. The volume of displacement is quite high. If you came about 30 minutes ago, you have seen a lot of people evacuating with the belongings out of the community. So many people have moved out of the community.
Still on flooding, inner roads in many parts of Accra are fast becoming unmortable as the rainy season sets in. One of the affected areas is Ablekuma North, where residents say major inner roads have seen little to no rehabilitation over the years. However, some relief may be in sight as about 18 kilometers of roads in the constituency have been earmarked for construction.
The onset of the rains in parts of Accra has once again exposed the poor state of many inner roads, especially those without proper drainage systems and asphalt surfacing. Several major roads and streets have also experienced flooding due to choked gutters and poor drainage infrastructure. In Ablekuma North, particularly in areas such as Sodoko and Bayard, roads have become virtually unmotorable, causing difficulties for both residents and commuters. The situation has remained a major concern for community members who say the poor road network continues to affect transportation and economic activities in the area. A sword-cutting ceremony to officially commence phase 1 of the rehabilitation of selected roads in the constituency has, however, brought renewed hope to residents. The road reconstruction and rehabilitation project, which begins in the Odoko electoral area, aims to improve accessibility, repair deteriorated roads, and make transportation within the community safer and more convenient. Member of Parliament for Ablekuma North, Rabna Orbin, said the poor state of inner roads in the municipality has negatively affected development over the years.
We are going to work on some 18-kilometer roads in carefully selected and prioritized streets. This is going to be the phase 1 of the project, and it's going to go through all 14 electoral areas, because if you looked across the constituency, most of our inner roads are untarred, and I'm sure those who know Ablekuma North, you know we are one of the constituencies or the municipalities which suffer heavy flooding due to some lack of drainage system.
She expressed satisfaction with the roads that have so far been awarded for construction and assured residents of efforts to improve infrastructure in the constituency.
Still watching the Eid edition of News 360. Stay with us. There is more after this.
for peace, tolerance and national unity, while warning against extremism, political intolerance, tribal division and drug abuse among the youth. He was addressing the national celebration to mark Eid al-Adha at the Black Star Square in Accra.
The Black Star Square was alive with color, prayer and reflection as Muslims gathered for the national Eid al-Adha celebration. But beyond the prayers and the sacrifice, the celebration carried a broader national message. Traditional rulers, Christian clergy, Muslim leaders, and state officials were all present, once again demonstrating Ghana's long-standing culture of religious tolerance and peaceful coexistence. Addressing the gathering, John Dramani Mahama said, "Ghana's reputation as a country of religious tolerance must not be taken for granted." He warned that extremism, political intolerance, and tribal divisions could weaken the very foundation of the country's peace.
The message of Eid is particularly important in today's world, where many societies are facing division, intolerance, violence, and conflict. It's not the meat that you slaughter or the blood that is spilled that will reach Allah. What will reach Allah is your heart. I urge all Ghanaians, irrespective of religion or ethnicity, to continue promoting peace, tolerance, understanding, and mutual respect. As we celebrate Eid al-Adha, let us reaffirm our commitment to the values of sacrifice, peace, compassion, humility, generosity, and national unity.
The president also praised the national chief imam, Sheikh Usman Nuhu Sharabutu, describing him as a symbol of humility, compassion, simplicity, and peace building. He urged Ghanaians, especially the youth, to learn from his example while cautioning them against drug abuse.
As Muslims, we are guided by the teachings and examples of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, whose life embodied mercy, humility, honesty, kindness, and justice. We're also blessed in Ghana to have the enduring example of our revered national chief imam, Sheikh Dr. Osman Nuhu Shaributu, whose life continues to inspire all Ghanaians through his humility, his compassion, his simplicity, his tolerance, and his peace building. I especially encourage our young people to remain disciplined, law-abiding, and responsible citizens. I urge you to also avoid drug addiction.
In more news this evening, amid growing concerns over rising indiscipline among the youth, Muslim leaders are calling on parents to take greater responsibility in shaping the moral upbringing of their children. The call came through Eid al-Adha celebrations at Sonitra in the West Municipality, where worshippers joined millions of Muslims worldwide to mark the sacred festival of sacrifice, obedience, and devotion to Allah.
From the elderly to parents and children, Muslims converged at the Nuri Masjid Mosque for this year's Eid al-Adha prayers. The celebration, observed globally by Muslims, commemorates the unwavering faith and obedience of Prophet Ibrahim, who was prepared to sacrifice his son in submission to Allah's command. The occasion also symbolizes sacrifice, devotion, compassion, and support for the needy. At the instance of an elder of the mosque, Alhaji Ibrahim Akuno, the gathering brought together members of the Muslim community in an atmosphere of thanksgiving and unity. In a sermon after leading the congregational prayers, the Imam of the mosque urged parents to adopt good parenting practices and instill discipline and moral values in their children to help them become responsible citizens.
Let us not be hasty in marrying. Let's look for a righteous man, a righteous woman who can bring up our children. We've lost that communication between us and our children. That emotional contact is not there anymore. Now you are speaking to a child, he has a phone. The concentration, the time to sit with our children, that love, that empathy, that connection is not there anymore.
The Imam added that Muslims have every reason to celebrate because Allah has been merciful and faithful to them throughout the Ramadan season and the year so far. As part of the celebration, a ram was slaughtered in line with Islamic tradition, with the meat used to prepare meals shared among worshippers and residents in the community. The Eid al-Adha festivities ended with prayers for peace, unity, and national development. Stanley Niblo, TV3 News, Accra.
And in the Volta region, leaders of the Islamic community are appealing to governments to support efforts towards the establishment of an Islamic senior high school in the region. They argue that the Muslim population in the region has grown significantly and merits a school that will shape the academic and religious faith of the growing Muslim community. We have sports news coming up shortly. Do stay with us.
Welcome to 4 Points by Sheraton Accra Airport Hotel, a unique luxury hotel that promises a memorable and well-connected stay. The hotel offers 5 types of spacious rooms with elegant furnishings from our standard, deluxe, suites, and executive rooms. Every room is a sanctuary, thoughtfully designed for work, rest, privacy, and indulgence. From refined mornings to vibrant afternoons and indulgent evenings, every bite is crafted to perfection, where refined moments meet the thrill of the game. We offer state-of-the-art meeting and conference facilities.
Oil. Powered by 3 Entertainment.
Good evening and welcome to the Entertainment News segment here on News 360. My name is Noella Donko. Now, celebrated Ghanaian actor Ajite Anang is advocating for stronger support for Ghana's movie industry through the newly introduced Film Development Fund. To him, the Ghanaian creators possess immense talent, but industry players must continue to sharpen their crafts to meet global standards and attract business audiences to cinemas.
She's a Vera Lynn.
How could you be in love with a Vera? You have to stop this feeling.
It's too late, Aludin. It's already entered my system.
According to the actor, the initiative may not completely solve all the challenges confronting the industry, but it is a major step towards helping independent filmmakers who have struggled over the years to sustain movie production in the country. He explained that many creatives often face financial difficulties when starting projects they are passionate about, and the fund could provide the needed capital to encourage quality productions.
So the fund is not here to solve all our problems, but at least it helps the individual who has been independent for all these years, trying to keep the space going. It boosts that capital of starting something. I mean, we all have teething problems when we want to start something that we're so passionate about in the space, and this would boost our the image. Would also boost our capital as well to be able to not be discouraged in doing movies and keeping the space going.
The actor also noted that the fund could motivate filmmakers to remain committed to producing world-class movies capable of competing internationally. He added that improving standards in the industry is necessary because film produced in Ghana represents the country globally and can help attract foreign investors into the local movie market.
It also brings some seriousness into this space because then whatever we put out there represents us, and if we're looking at investors coming here to sort of open our market, people like Idris Alba and co have talked about putting up a film set here and all that. But the message we're sending out there is that we have talents, but not just talents who can draw the audience to our cinema houses, but also talents who are well grounded in their craft, because then it opens our market and people want to work with us. And so for me, these are some of the ready issues that this fund would help improve and solve. Yeah.
It was for us, boy, and now we missed it.
Well, very well said. But that's it for the Entertainment News segment here on News 360. My name is Noella Donko. Let's go after this break.
In my line of work, a confident smile is everything. Kale Charcoal Toothpaste keeps me on top of my game and ensures my smile is always radiant and bright.
With the tiring nature of my job, we spend several hours under the scorching sun. To keep our teeth white and our breath fresh all the time, we use none other than Kale Charcoal Toothpaste. Kale Charcoal Toothpaste. You're on a Kessie and in a kit one.
Samayo kendini, ehu behia, semecha sapapadia to ama me manfo. Kale Charcoal's natural ingredients, eno bomb se ho ban. Maniswing, Nansu Mama Hotoso, e will bedroom.
Kale Charcoal Toothpaste. Choose Kale Charcoal Toothpaste.
Hello again. It's now time for international news.
The head of the World Health Organization, WHO, has warned that ongoing conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo is hampering the Ebola outbreak response. WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says the east of the country was at the center of a catastrophic collision of disease and conflict, with the Ebola outbreak in Ituri province outpacing the response. In a statement posted on X, Tedros said the WHO cannot build community trust or isolate the sick while bombs are falling. There have been 220 suspected deaths since the outbreak was declared. U.S. President Donald Trump has increased the refugee admissions ceiling by 10,000 for this year to allow more white South Africans to come into the country. A signed presidential determination document dated May 21 said white South Africans of Afrikaner ethnicity face an emergency situation due to the incitement of racially motivated violence by the government and political parties in the majority black country. Trump froze refugee admissions from around the world when he took office in January 2025, but weeks later launched a program exclusively aimed at bringing in white South Africans. The effort, which prioritized white refugees while shunning thousands of others from Africa, Asia and elsewhere, was part of a broader challenging of humanitarian norms around refugee protection. The Trump administration has admitted only 3 non-South African refugees this fiscal year, government figures show. The commander of Hamas military wing, Mohammed Uday, has been killed in a strike in the Gaza Strip on Tuesday, days after his predecessor died in a similar attack. Israel's military and Shin Bet security service said buildings that served as a hideout for Uday were targeted after his movements were tracked for several months. At least 3 Palestinians were killed and dozens more were injured in the attack, which hit a residential building in one of Gaza City's busiest market areas. Despite the Israel-Hamas ceasefire agreed in October, violence in Gaza has continued on a near-daily basis.
And that's how we bring the bulletin to an end. Thank you so much for watching. I am Martin Esiedu Dati.
And I am Portia Gabo. Good evening.